I don't always play fringe spells when I play Modern, but when I do, I like to cast them without paying their mana cost. Presented today are the top 5 Modern legal cards that can be cast without you paying any mana. The ability to cast a spell without paying its cost is one of the most powerful and unexpected things you can do during a game, which is why, though all these cards typically don't see much play, I think that they have real potential and might be overlooked treasures for deck builders. Now, I'm only going to be looking at spells which can be cast by alternative means, such as pitch spells, which allow you to exile another card from your hand, or by having certain game conditions met, or things like that. So because of this, I'm not going to be looking at the pacts, because you do pay for them. It's just a delayed payment. And I also won't be looking at those zero-cost artifacts, things like Ornithopter, or Memnite, or of course, Mox Opal. Yeah, there's a whole deck around those cards, one of the most powerful in all of Modern, in fact. So maybe that demonstrates just how powerful not paying can be. But before we get to the top 5, let's start with a runner-up. It's in red, and it's Fury of the Horde. This is a cool card from Cold Snap, and it lets us exile 2 red cards from our hand in order to get an additional attack phase, an additional main phase, and to untap all creatures that attacked this turn. To be able to do this for free is such a fantastic ability. To me, this is a perfect fit for red deck wins and similar mono-red builds. Although Burn has long held the champion seat for mono-red and Modern, there's a lot of potential for budget brews and rogue builds. At less than $2 each, this is a great tool to have in your kit if you're looking to overrun your opponents. Goblins, perhaps? The cost is a little too high at 2 red cards, and I don't think this quite makes the cut, but it does deserve an honorable mention. Alright, number 5 is Sickening Shoal. There's so much lovely removal for cheap and black, but free is better than cheap, almost always. Nonetheless, this card has some real potential, exiling away a black card from your hand to wipe out something scary of your opponent's. The main thing holding this card back is that a giant creature which needs to be removed is going to need a giant casting cost card exiled from your hand. And that's very possibly something that you don't have. Oh, if only this said just to destroy target creature. This would be insane. Although that artwork is a little insane. It's a fish barfing on a guy. Ew, that's some gross magic there, Swamp Mage. Gross magic. Remember, zero-cost instants can be so powerful because your opponent still has to expect them even when you're tapped out. That's why I love number 4, Snapback, our alternative costed no mana spell, all the way from Time Spiral. Yes, it is a higher costed unsummon, which in itself usually doesn't get run in Modern in favor of things like Vapor Snag. But remember, an opponent is going to get cocky if they think you are tapped out. The problem here is that ultimately this is still too weak of an effect to be worth the cost of the trick. However, there's nothing more satisfying than a surprise unsummon of your opponent's Splinter Twin target, or whatever pumped up infect beastie was about to swing in for lethal. Being tapped out usually encourages your opponent to unload their pump without caution, letting you get a 2-for, 3-for, heck, some infect decks even a 4-for, and that's worth the exiled blue. At number 3 is the Unlikely Sunscour. Now this is costly. You have to remove 2 white cards from your hand from the game to wipe the board of all creatures. This spell could be so much better if only it were an instant, or required 1 less card, or had a lower regular casting cost, or something. Still, the advantage I see here is wiping out an opponent's entire board late game, and then using your untapped mana to gain significant advantage, but in the end, like our previous 2, these spells remain fringe for a reason. Alright, enough playing around. Let's look at some of the serious contenders on this list instead. Next up, at number 2, is one of the most powerful cards. It's Blazing Shoal. No, wait. That got banned. Too powerful, I guess. I know, it's Nourishing Shoal. No, wait. That's just another symptom of what I'm calling modern madness. Which is, of course, one card sees some play in a random winning deck, and all the speculators buy it out, and the price spikes, and suddenly everyone thinks that this is a serious modern card, and it's not. So no, 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 no. Our super powerful card is, of course, the famous Force of Will. Force of Will is one of the most powerful cards ever printed. That's why to run Force of Will in Modern, it costs you $13. Yikes. And hang on. I'm being told that Force of Will is not legal in Modern, and that I should be saying Disrupting Shoal. Ah, yes. Well, it's the modern Force of Will, and it's just got one drawback. The catch is that you not only have to discard a blue card from your hand, just like Force of Will, but Disrupting Shoal needs the card that you discarded to be the same mana cost as the one you are countering. Now, this condition has kept it from taking over the format in the same way Force of Will has in Legacy. But I still think this is a hidden gem, because here's the thing about Modern. Almost every spell costs 3 or less. This is why Eidolon of the Great Revel turned into such an insane powerhouse. Almost nothing your opponents are going to be casting costs more than 3. Heck, even Spell Snare is super powerful because you're very likely to encounter an overwhelming majority of 2-cost spells. So with that in mind, Disrupting Shoal, I think, can do more than most people think, because you are likely to have a spell with the same converted mana cost as the one you are countering. The power to be able to counter your opponent's spells is overwhelming. And given that Shoal actually sees almost no real play in Modern, means they'll never see it coming. It's a card that has an amazing potential to create some real homebrewed trouble for your opponent. So what's our number 1 card? Well, in all honesty, it was a really close tie with number 2. I mean, Disrupting Shoal is the Force of Will of Modern. So if you feel it should have been number 1, then know that it almost was. But I am going to award that top spot to none other than Mindbreak Trap. Mindbreak Trap can be cast at instant for 0 if your opponent has cast 3 or more spells this turn. The most common instance of your opponent casting 3 or more spells at once is them comboing off, something Modern is filled with. Well, this card might as well read, your opponents can't combo off. Keep in mind Mindbreak Trap's alternative cost conditions checks whether an opponent casts 3 or more spells this turn, not whether or not 3 or more spells has resolved. So this means that if they are going nuts on the stack, perhaps trying to storm their way to victory, you can wipe them clean before they resolve. What's so awesome about this is that if a spell is exiled, it's removed from the stack and thus not resolved at all. The spell isn't countered, hear me, it simply no longer exists. That means this works on spells that can't be countered, such as Terra Stomper or Abrupt Decay. And yes, while combo decks are not exactly on the rise in Modern at this exact minute, the format is constantly changing and evolving, and Mindbreak Trap is something I am glad to have my playset of in case of combo emergency. One of the things I feel Modern really needs is more exploration and experimentation. Given the vast library of cards you can build from, it's disappointing that most people build from a small selection of pre-established decks. I hope this video or the others like it that I've made have given you some ideas for coloring outside the lines in Modern with these rogue, fringe, or otherwise interesting cards. And this video has been brought to you by the generous support of patron alums at Patreon, and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.